So I was looking at this story of Ruby Franke, and what a name, right? I mean, if I were to tell you, hey, I'm going to set you up on a date with a woman named Ruby Franke, you're going to be thinking, oh boy, what in the hell am I getting myself into? And I would just tell you, you're getting yourself into a nightmare. And that is exactly what Ruby Franke made her home into, a nightmare, because she has 6 children and she was abusing them. She was starving them to the point where they were severely malnourished. She was physically abusing them. One 12-year-old son of hers was found with deep lacerations due to being tied up with rope and duct tape, and she was using her kids as slaves. She would not let them eat unless they did some sort of physical labor for her. But people fell for the image. People fell for this image of the clean cut white suburban family. And they were anything but clean. I mean, they may have been clean on a superficial level, but behind the curtains, the family was a nightmare. But people, time and time again, especially Americans, fall for this facade of the clean cut white suburban family that's just perfect and just amazing and just traditional and modest. And this is the family that we need to use as a role model for America. So you want to use a family that's only superficially clean cut and perfect on the screen, but in reality are a nightmare and a cult and full of abuse? And I saw the same thing with the Duggars. I remember years ago looking at a TV screen and the Duggars were on, and it was on TLC. And I remember thinking to myself, there is something so off about this family. And I started doing research on them, and I found out that they were a part of this homeschooling cult, and there was all of this sexual abuse that was going on. And I remember writing about the Duggars. I remember talking about the Duggars on my YouTube channel and telling people, warning people, that this is a cult. This is a cult that is a part of this homeschooling movement, this dysfunctional, disgusting homeschooling movement that is full of sexual abuse. And people were condemning me. People were expressing their rage against me. People were telling me how wrong I was, how I should not be attacking this wonderful Christian family that's just a role model that America needs right now for a good family, for good family values. And it turned out that I was correct. It turned out that there was sexual abuse that was happening in the Duggar family. The son was abusing his sisters. He was abusing the little girls at the church. And then it turned out that he had child pornography, and the police raided his home. Who is talking about the Duggars? Nobody. No one's talking about the Duggars. Why not? Because the facade was shattered. The image was shattered. But that image that was shattered is what so many people fall for. And they continue to fall for it time and time again. And they were falling for this family, this Franke family. They were falling for this Ruby Franke woman. Oh, look at her. She is this white suburban woman that a lot of American men, she has this face that a lot of American men idealize. It's this, it's the face of the all-American blonde girl that you want to marry. When the reality is that she is a monster, that she is a despot. But a lot of people fall for this type of thing. Oh, yeah, look at her, perfect Aryan princess. And she's a monster. And a lot of people fall for this. In America, there is this subculture of homeschooling. And there is a lot of abuse that takes place in homeschooling families. I'm not saying that every homeschooling family is abusive, but a lot of them are. And if you don't believe me, just do a quick Google search. Look it up on Google. Look up homeschooling cults, homeschooling abuse, and you will find just countless stories of abuse taking place in homeschooling households. And it happens a lot. It happens all the time. Sexual abuse, physical abuse, psychological abuse. And people really think, they see these homeschooling families on YouTube or whatever. They see a family like the Duggars, or they see a family like, this Franke family, and they will think, oh, wow, this is amazing. But look into the homeschooling movement, and you will find a lot of abuse. And this woman, Ruby Franke, she is a Mormon. And I'm certain, and in fact, I know that there are a lot of Americans who would argue Mormons are Christians. And I've been seeing this since the days of Glenn Beck and the days of Mitt Romney's election. People were saying, oh, Mormons are Christians, or they're basically Christians, or, Mormonism is better than Islam, so Mormonism gets a pass all of a sudden. Mormons are better than Muslims, so they get a pass. They're exempt from criticism. And it's like people just don't learn. They don't learn. They don't learn from their mistakes of following these types of people. I remember years ago, people were worshiping Glenn Beck. Glenn Beck was the biggest thing in the conservative movement back in the early 2010s. It came to the point where Glenn Beck spoke in an arena, and 300,000 people showed up to listen to Glenn Beck. And it got to Beck's head. It got to his head to the point where he was talking about building his own city. And I remember seeing that thinking, is this some kind of Jonestown crap? Is this some kind of Waco, Texas type of thing? Like, is the ATF going to have to go down there and shoot the place up to rescue the children? And thankfully he didn't build the city, but I knew exactly what Beck was trying to do. He was trying to create his own cult, his own Jonestown cult. It's very obvious, it's very clear, and it's very sickening. And I remember telling people about Glenn Beck. I remember warning people about Glenn Beck. Glenn Beck was getting into all of these warped spiritual ideas. He was getting into universalism. And I remember warning people about Beck. And so many people bashed me. So many people attacked me. Just like so many people attacked me when I warned them about the Duggars. And people were saying, how dare you attack this nice Christian family? How dare you attack Glenn Beck? And when it turned out that the Duggars were indeed a cult, no one ever came back and said, Ted, you were right. When people turned against Glenn Beck, they turned against him for the wrong reasons, to be honest with you. People loved Beck when he was preaching his Mormon nonsense. People really had no issue with him. But once Beck started attacking Trump, all of a sudden they started hating him because one cult leader attacked an even bigger cult of personality, which is the cult of personality of Donald Trump, and then people turned against him. They didn't turn against him when he was preaching heresy. They had no issue with that. So as long as people have this mentality of idealizing this image in their heads, this image of the perfect American family, the perfect Christian family, as long as they keep doing this, they're going to fall for people like Ruby Franke or like Glenn Beck or like the Duggars. And Ruby Franke, she didn't follow a Christian church that believes in the Trinity and believes in the elementals of Christianity. She is a Mormon. Her family is Mormon. And Mormonism is a cult that really revolves around sex and power. They worship a god who lives on some fictional planet called Kolob, where he has sex with his heavenly wives for all of eternity and produces spirit babies that then manifest themselves as humans on this earth. So they worship this god who is the big eternal heavenly pimp in the sky. So it shouldn't surprise us to see abuse amongst the Mormons when they worship a god that is this heavenly pimp. And also, they worship an actual pimp by the name of Joseph Smith. So none of this surprises me. Anyway, you guys just heard some theology. God bless.